The king of all monsters strikes again. No chains can hold him. No tomb can seal him in. Tonight, on our continuing series, Entertainment Revisited, the Universal Monster Movies, we watched 1942's The Ghost of Frankenstein. DJ, plot recap, please.
Okay, this one takes place after The Son of Frankenstein, which we watched quite a bit away, in which the character Ygor from that one, the kind of like the main or side villain from that film, comes back and is causing trouble in the town and finds Frankenstein monster's body in the rubble of the castle and takes him to another son of Frankenstein in order to bring him back, and shenanigans ensue. Mostly lots of Frankenstein monster doing things he shouldn't, and there's a brain transplant, which is fun.
Yeah, actually really good brain transplant where eventually Ygor gets his brain put in the body of Frankenstein's monster. Of course, that doesn't work out because they have different blood types, and
causes the monster to be destroyed again. It's the fourth time the Frankenstein monster showed up.
And the movie literally ends with the romantic couple that barely had any screen time as the romantic couple walking into the sunset.
Yeah, that seems to be a common thing with these things.
It's like the prime time of that trope.
So yeah, it's Frankenstein. It's the Frankenstein monster again doing Frankenstein monster things. The movie still doesn't quite entirely know what to do with the monster, because in every single one they make him kind of a tragic character and then kind of make him a villain, but it always kind of works because it's just the mannerisms, the way, and he's played really well. So it was a good fourth take in the series of Frankenstein, and there's a couple of continuity things, but for the most part it follows through from the other films.
Yeah, pretty much. This film, the major difference is that this is the first film that Frankenstein's monster is not played by the uncanny Karloff.
That is correct.
He is played by Lon Chaney, who I believe I'm pretty sure that it's Lon Chaney Jr., actually, who is the actor who also played the Wolfman. Mm-hmm. Anyway, we'll get right into it. The good, the bad, the ugly, the iconic of The Ghost of Frankenstein, starting with the good, DJ.
It's a fun movie. A lot of these, especially after watching Visual and some of these other ones, this one is just fun. Like, it's just enjoyable to watch. It was easy. It was quickly paced, but reasonably placed. And I enjoyed the entire film. Like, this one was one of the ones where I wasn't like sitting here like, oh, why is this? Why is that? No, it's just an enjoyable film.
Absolutely.
And especially after The Ghost of Frankenstein. Now, The Ghost of Frankenstein is kind of technically better in some ways. Like, it has better cinematography, some stuff. And it had, the sets were way better in this one. And they definitely, I don't know if there was maybe cues or stuff taken, maybe audiences reacted, but the sets, the practical effects were significantly better in this one than Son of Frankenstein. Mm-hmm. So it was just a fun movie to watch, and it was just a good time. I just enjoyed it.
That's fair. I would say that the good is actually the continuity. I was pleasantly surprised by the continuity that they showed in this film.
A lot of the other ones would retcon quite a bit from previous ones, a little bit. This one did a decent amount.
It had good carryover. The returning characters were all the same. It had the same vibe and the same feel in the town of Frankenstein at the beginning of the film. And then because it moved into a new town, obviously all the town's people and all the different things are going to be different. But they played it very well, and they played it better than I thought that they were going to. So right. I just have to give kudos, though. The continuity is really good for a fourth film in a franchise.
Yeah, there's a... one of the ones we weren't sure about was like the brother, because I remember correctly a little bit, like the last one, the brother was a different brother. He did mention having another brother when he came to close the estate, but I'd have to almost go back to like how much of that was in there, but I do remember I wasn't surprised there was a different brother. Like
Yeah.
it felt natural. And the only thing is that the doctor like immediately recognized Igor, and that's never really established to how they would have known each other.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's alluded to that I think that this is the one from the second Frankenstein film. He's the son.
Yeah.
That was actually there. He's older than the other Frankenstein. This seems like it's like right after the other one, so he would have been the older brother. But other than there was a few other little things like that.
Yeah.
But none of it felt like it killed the film.
Yeah.
Whereas some of these other ones get a little messy, or have to retcon a lot to make them work.
Yeah. No, it's just it was good carryover, and also the fact that they brought Bela Lugosi back. Yeah, it's not Boris Karloff, but at the same time, you can kind of
Jay did a good job though.
He did a great job.
He did the stiff movements. It was awkward movements. It was actually pretty well done, and there was a good dubbing in there that they did with Igor.
Yeah. The dubbing would have been the other good, but it's such a small part of the movie.
Yeah. Well, it fits along with like continuity. Like they made a good job of making sure like characters like in not just from other films, but within the film that it was continuous and it felt fluid.
Yeah.
It felt natural. That was one of the things that was Son of Frankenstein is it didn't feel as natural on the flow. It was a little rough on the flow of the film.
Definitely. 100%. Son of Frankenstein is definitely the weakest in this series, despite the fact that Ygor is fantastic in both of them.
Yeah, this Bela Lugosi is really good, and the Son of Frankenstein has really good scene setting and shots. It's just there's a lot of inconsistencies, and some of the sets are really trippy.
The sets are bad.
Yeah, this one does a good job of like moving past that.
Definitely. Okay, moving on to the bad. DJ, what would you say is the bad for this film?
The biggest one for me is that it kind of went back to the tropiness of like undeveloped relationships. It doesn't really well defined. It kind of shoehorns in some relationships like the Frankenstein and his daughter, and then her and the fiance, it doesn't really establish their like relationship with each other other than that.
Yeah,
she's his daughter, he's her fiance, and that's like all you really know about them. There's nothing deeper to it than that, and up to the end of the film, like you never see those two ever like kiss or embrace or anything. Like just like
they just mention that they're in a relationship, and then they're on screen together for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, and they're always like it feels like platonic, like they're just good friends. And that's something they did a lot in earlier films. Like we talked about that in Dracula, the first Frankenstein, the Werewolf of London. Like these relationships feel like forced in some of these.
They just kind of threw it in so that they could have a female lead.
Yeah, and she doesn't do very much. They wanted like the damsel in distress moments, but her being a Frankenstein, it would have been more fun for her to do so, especially after they did Invisible Woman. And the Invisible Woman herself was like a really fun character. They could have done more with her.
Yeah.
Her being a Frankenstein, but they don't really do anything with her or the guy. Like they just kind of show up to move the plot along. Yeah. That's a bad for me. They don't really do much. Yeah, it's really the only really detracting thing from the film when it comes to the characters, to me.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I agree with you. I think that that's probably just the bad. It's a shame because it felt like like you had mentioned, it felt like we had kind of moved on from that tendency in the film.
And we had for a while.
Exactly. And the thing is, like, we hadn't had a poor relationship since, like, it had to have been Bride of Frankenstein was the last time that they had that kind of.
The Wolfman had it was a little stalker weirdish, but it develops. Yeah,
but it's a different kind of relationship,
and it moves forward.
Yeah, it's different than just the shoehorned in feeling. It
actually was more interesting because of that, because he was like pursuing someone that was already with someone, and he never really kind of made it work. But yeah, like Werewolf of London, I think was the last one that was like really bad.
Yeah.
the rest of them done a lot better job since then of like cleaning up relationships.
Right. So it'd been a while. So I'd say that's a bad.
Even Daughter of Dracula, like that does a better job of like leading those characters along from the original. So
well, yeah, and there's not really a romantic relationship in Dracula's Daughter, if I remember right.
It's kind of she wants the other guy and takes her with her, but it's like an obsession thing. Again, better written. It's not even that was a badly written relationship. It just wasn't even there. It's like, why even bring it up if it doesn't mean anything, was kind of how I felt about it. It didn't really need to be in there because it doesn't do anything for anything.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you though. Let's move on then. What is ugly?
Yeah.
This film's actually really well put together. That's the thing, is I'm having a hard time coming up with an ugly. Like the bad, I kind of jumped onto yours because I'm having a hard time actually finding something that's actually like ugly about this film, because it's well put together. It has a pretty interesting story. It has some good action bits. It has some good scenes in it. The pacing's good.
I have an ugly for it. The whole movie is a good pacing until the very end. It just suddenly ends.
That's true.
The first Frankenstein movie and the first Dracula movie, those were my biggest complaints. Is it ramps up and then it just ends.
It's fair.
Like Dracula was a good example of this, where they chase the enemy down and then they just unceremoniously kill him without any real like kerfuffle. It's just done. That's kind of how this one goes. Like it ramps up, things are happening, there's the mob and everything, and then they're just like, Frankenstein dead, castle's burning, and they just walk away from the castle. Frankenstein's still in there. Like, they just leave. They just walk away like romantically into the sunset while her dad's like burning to death in the castle.
I would say that is ugly, actually.
Yeah,
like, now that I think about it,
it's just
the tone shift.
Yeah, there's a major tone shift to like, oh, this is like he's Coronas, and it's like, well, your dad's burning to death in there, but it's all good because we got each other. It's just really weird.
Yeah.
It actually it's kind of a little bit, I'll say whatever, but it actually makes me think of the live action Little Mermaid, when Ariel just goes to see her father and just leaves Prince Eric to die in the ocean.
Eric to swim 2 miles back
to fend for himself. And then everything makes up in the end. Like, what? No, you left me out there to die. What is wrong with you? But like, that's how it felt. Like they just calmly walking away as a couple as her dad's burning to death in the castle. It's a little weird and it's ugly, man. It's just a weird, and then it ends right there. Yeah. Sudden tone shift, sudden end.
Yeah, that is.
Don't know how I feel about that. I don't like it. I know that.
Speaking of things I don't like, I just remembered. I think I have a good ugly too.
Here we go.
Yeah, I have a pretty good ugly here. The fact that Frankenstein has a dungeon in his castle and nobody is bothered by that. Like it's a necessary set piece.
Secret doors and trapdoors were common in castles because of various reasons, but it is kind of weird how just nonchalant everyone that discovers it is about it. In fact, the police guy is just like, oh, yep, there's one secret door. There's obviously another one. Look for the second secret door.
Well, no. But they open it up, right? So they open this thing up, and literally the police commissioner just goes, well, Dr. Frankenstein, lead us into your dungeon. It's like nonchalant.
That's true.
And then they go into the dungeon, and it's like, oh, here's the end of the dungeon.
Well, it's like even if he wouldn't be surprised that there was one, he should still be a little, like, there should be a tone shift when he discovers it the first time.
Yeah.
Like, hey, man, you lied to me. Like, there's a passage here. How many more of these are there? And instead, he's just like, lead the way. And then it's lead the way. And it's passage through passage through passage. And then when he turns, they're turning on the gas. He doesn't say they have gas or, hey, there's gas in here. They're turning on the gas. Like, he knows it's already there. Like, he's aware they have a secret gas chamber in their building. He was not surprised at that at all. I'm like
all the weird intricacies of this like murder castle from hell. It's just, they're just like, he's turning on the gas.
Like
they find the secret door that leads into the secret dungeon within the dungeon, and nobody's like, oh my word, it's a secret dungeon inside of a dungeon. They're just like, I found the door. Like they
It's
just pull it
so
open.
nonchalantly, like just finds it, and they find it so easily. It's like they got to the point where they're just moving the plot along. Like, we don't know how to get these people together, so you discover a secret hidden door. Okay.
Just reading a script.
Goes downstairs. You discover another secret hidden door. That is a big ugly. Like,
Yeah.
you even mentioned it during the thing. You're like, why does it have a gas chamber? It's like it's an old security system. Like, it makes sense why he would have gas to protect himself, but why does he have gas to protect himself? Like, he knows Frankenstein monster's still out there. He's aware of this. He's a little eccentric. He's probably fearful. But a gas chamber in your house? There's a lot of other ways he could have dealt with this. Or even then, like, or he had the concept, but pulling it off, like, this castle was designed to be Frankenstein monster proof. Like, he was expecting an encounter, and no one else is surprised about this. In the film that sees it, no one. They all expect it. It's a little wild. We were sitting here watching this movie like, man, this is really good. This is pretty good. What the frick is happening? Because the end, it gets just, the last like 20 minutes just goes insane. Like to a level 100 out of nowhere.
So I know historically that this isn't necessarily accurate. It would be funny though if this movie made it to Germany during the time, 1942. So it made it all the way to Germany, right? And the Germans are all watching, oh, this is a very good movie. And, oh, he put gas and it took out all the people that he didn't want. Take notes. Write that down. Write that down. Get some gas.
Oh my God. Well, except for they were using gas in World War One.
Yeah, no.
But yes. Like they watched
a chamber full of gas to take out the unwanted people.
No.
How very German. The ingenuity.
I also like how they always paint the German people as like backwards as hell when it comes to like their towns are all like really old and
but
like,
all of their uniforms are very much like the Germans of the time.
Yeah.
Without outright being.
There were some weird moments in there, like you can tell at the time like there's some stuff going on. I just found it like there was some wild stuff. I don't know. It was there is actually, you think about it, there is actually like a lot of ugly to it, but that would have been like directly to the time. Like we kind of changed a little bit because as these films got more modern, ugly used to be, it's something that held it back because of the time it was built. But as we've gotten more modern with these films, that excuse is gone. So ugly has now just become like the sinking feeling, the thing that makes this film not work or hurts it.
Yeah.
And this one actually has a of the time, like the war and everything going on affected this film because a lot of the visuals that were done, uniform choices, were things that they did were literally because of the time period it was written. So that's just interesting to me. I find that fun.
Yeah. All right. Iconic.
Okay, so for iconic for this one, I'm going to go with practical effects.
That's a good one.
This one is one of the first one. I think it's the first one we watched out of all of them that used practical effects to like the extent that they did. We talked about a little bit in some of the other Frankenstein ones, how the town started to feel more alive and like actual, like real places. Mm-hmm. This one did that to the next level. They showed full scenes of village. They showed towns and buildings. When they showed the fires, they did really good practical effects of explosions and flames going. And there was just a lot of really well-made practical effects. And it just worked. It felt, these films are starting to feel more lively. And these practical effects didn't feel off-putting or weird. They felt cool. The machines, when they were doing the Frankenstein machines, even though you look at these like household tools, this thing looks like a machine that could actually do what they're making it do.
Yeah, it looks just crazy enough that it might work.
Yes.
Like it really leans into that where it's like, sure, if we really pay attention to it, we're like, oh, it's like a circular handsaw. It's just,
it's a circular handsaw on a toaster, but it's like, but it looks cool and reasonable.
And it's functioning, and you're like, it's just crazy enough to work.
Yeah. The castle burning at the end, the destruction of the castle in the beginning.
Yep.
It's just so many cool practical effects. that it's like the practical effects peaked in this film to me. And
Yeah.
I think this is setting the tone of where either this is going to be a one-off and I'm going to be disappointed, or I'm going to see more and more heavy practical effect usage.
Yeah.
Because the earlier films did a lot of play acting, a lot of dialogue, a lot of exposition, and scene setting,
Mm-hmm.
but not a lot of huge practical effect because they don't show a lot. In fact, the Dracula, the first one, they describe what they're seeing rather than showing it because they struggle to show it. Visible Man had some cool, invisible effects. I see the pattern of them improving and putting these things together. And this just feels like a culmination of all the practical effects we've seen from all the other films just comes together in this film.
Yeah. I have a couple of iconics. Obviously, like the monster iconic has to go to Ygor.
I was gonna do Ygor for mine, but that was my iconic from the last one.
Well, so no, but I want to.
But I figured I'd let you have this one.
I want to.
I didn't feel it was fair to steal Ygor both times. That seemed oddly cruel.
So I'm going to have two iconics. Just I think that there's enough monsters in the film that Ygor in and of himself is very iconic in that he is a conniving, clever, like serpent, like
manipulative,
very, very good villain. And it's actually scary. Like it actually seems kind of scary. The idea of Ygor in Frankenstein's body at the end, you're like, oh, he actually could.
Like he has the cunning.
Yeah,
he has the cunning and the snaky nature, but now he's also got the body to back it up.
Yeah,
so he could connive and thrust and throw
threaten.
A door at people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things where it's like, of all the monsters that show up in this movie, he is the iconic monster. He's a full blown monster, both evil human. And at the end, the climax,
the actual Frankenstein's monster, and he's of himself his own like iconic monster, as you would say.
Mm-hmm. So the other iconic thing that I want to throw out is it has very good I don't know if it's necessarily worthy enough for like a full point, but I do want to mention it. The pseudoscience explanation at the end, where Igor's blood type is not the same as Frankenstein's monster and the doctor.
Right.
When you hear that, you're like, okay, so the body's shutting down, stuff like that. You're like, oh, okay, they're bringing the movie to an end. You could think of it that way. But at the same time, too, like thinking about it, you're like, actually, that's a pretty good point because it's processing through his brain different. So of course it's not going to function quite right.
Well, and his body will attack his brain.
Yeah. So I thought that's a really, I thought the script writing was pretty well done.
Yeah.
In regards to,
I can get behind that.
In regards to like bringing up like the threat at the very end, and then also how the monster is brought to an end.
I actually will add one more iconic to this just because I think it's relevant because it is a Frankenstein film, is Frankenstein's monster. Not necessarily like the actor playing him stuff, but the fact that a new actor is playing him, but they still follow Karloff's example.
Yeah.
The monster did not change.
No.
Karloff set this monster so in tune that even now a new person is playing the monster and the mannerisms the same. They're playing Karloff's monster. They're playing him the same mannerisms, the same facial expressions, and he does a really good job of imitating Karloff's work. And that is iconic in the fact that this is the first time we are seeing a new person play one of the monsters
the same way
way a different person did it, establishing that is the monster's character and build.
Yeah.
Now they had Ygor transfer into him, so now that they wanted to, they could easily in the future have actors play him differently, and it would make sense and work.
Yeah.
So they gave themselves an out, or they could stay the same. But that is just really iconic that they were able to capture that essence of him. And they went, instead of doing a new direction, they did manage to continue with that while also giving them a way to change it in the future if they so decide to do, which I do not know because I've not seen any of the rest, so we'll see.
All right. Speaking of seeing the rest, we have just gone over the good, the bad, the ugly, and the iconic for the Ghost of Frankenstein. We are following the box set for the 100th anniversary of Universal Studios, the classic monster box. So if you want to follow along for the next video, just get that box and you can follow along with us and watch the exact same version of the films that we are watching as well. Just throw like a little promo. We're not getting paid for it or anything, but I think it is an iconic enough series that
it's a really cool
worth
box
watching.
set.
Yeah, it's worth
And
watching.
these, despite you think like, oh man, these movies are 100 years old. Yeah, but they're good. Like they're not all good. Like there's some bad ones, but they've been mostly good.
Mm-hmm.
And they continue. Like this is a continuing series. Like this is the original like Avengers universe, like where these monsters exist. They have their sequels. They tie into the earlier films. They're continuations, and we're getting ready to get into the ones where they start mixing them together, and they all matter. Like, I know one of the later ones, House of Frankenstein, Wolfman, played by the same guy from the Wolfman, is back, and so these are going to start. Like this is like the original Universal monster universe. Like they did it. It was done before. And they did a really good job of, like, despite some retcons here and there, they did a really good job for the time of making it work.
Yeah, definitely. But anyway, we recommend, if you want to follow along with us, getting that box set and watching the films. It is well worth it. Otherwise, things that are well worth it, liking this video, commenting down below, letting us know your thoughts, and of course, subscribing to the channel for more Cinema Revisited Universal Monsters, as well as some of our other upcoming series, our curb stomps, our weekly movie reviews, etc., etc. We hope that you stick around, and we hope to see you guys